everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got an epic show ahead, but just remember, if any of you have experiences you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can either email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com or head over to paranormalportal.net and scroll down and find the button that says Interview Me, and that'll allow you to look at a calendar of possible times and dates and find a date that works for you. Love to hear your stories, so definitely get in touch with me. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and this is another epic journey into the worlds of the strange and unknown, and hope y'all are doing wonderful out there. Thank you for all the love and support, and I am just thrilled to have the opportunity to continue to do these shows, and thank you guys for making all that possible. I've got a fantastic show for you guys today, and if you're a listener of the podcast, you've heard her before, but she is back once again, and I'm speaking of Mercedez Lucke Benedict, who is coming back on the show again, and we're going to continue down the journey of her story. And you may be familiar with the fact that she was her experience was featured on the Dead Files, and she has had a lot of profound experiences. The journey has been really incredible. The good news is they've come out on the upside of it, which is nice, because when you're dealing with something dark and horrible, it's a coin toss. But I think it was a matter of faith and a lot of people rallying behind them that helped them through that period. But she is back again, and she has written 2 books, and one of which is called Through the Veil, A Journey of Remote Viewing, Spiritual Communication, and Healing, and another one called Better You Through Prayer and Fasting. So we're going to get into this discussion, folks. Buckle up. We're going in. Hey, Mercedes, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me back on, Brent. I appreciate it. What an intro. I love that intro. Thank you.
Well, you know, I'm a bit of an old hand. Yeah, buckle up. Your experiences have been profound and horrifying, and also wonderful, because you've managed to come through it. And if you don't mind, could you kind of recap where this all began in a brief recap of how you got here?
Well, yeah, it has been kind of a long journey. So 10 years ago, I moved onto the property in Marana, Arizona. And prior to that, I had been dealing with paranormal and spirits, and I had already been working with remote viewing and helping others at the office place that I worked in private. But that is where I met my husband, Joe Benedict, and that is how I came out to property here that he owns in Marana, Arizona. And at the time, Joe actually was working for a haunted attraction at part-time, or he was part owner. But that was a little bit of what I was dealing with him at first, without even coming into the property. But I remember driving down the dirt road when I first came to the property, and I had this feeling like I had been there before. Like it's way out here in the middle of nowhere, and I just felt very much a kindred spirit to the land as I was driving up. And that really was the beginning. And as I would start to come out here, everything just seemed fine. I hadn't moved in yet. There was, like I said, I was still dealing with Joe. I was working on him I'm a therapist, so not a mental therapist, but his body is hurt. So I am a cranial sacral myofascial therapist. I now teach my classes. I'm accredited as a teacher. And so, yeah, I saw things on him. I saw the black shadow man. I started to draw these things with Joe. He was actually the very first person that brought me a sketchbook. I would always doodle my sketches prior to that. And honestly, I am literally just now really kind of coming out and talking about that type of thing where it is with me. I mentioned that before. I mentioned things before, but at the very beginning of all this, I was still working for the doctor that I worked for, and it was a real practice. So I wasn't going to be talking about everything out loud, just because it was a real practice, and I didn't want to, have that image. So now that is finished and retired, the person is retired, and I am free to, talk about things. And that's what I'm doing. So that's why I wrote the books and everything like that too. So, and created the documentary, which you're a part of. You're the narrator and you're in the documentary. So there has been a long list of things. So when I first came out here, though, when I actually moved out here, when we decided I would come and live out here, that's when it all started, really. It was evidently clear that caused some sort of change on the land. And there was another thing that happened at the same time that we weren't knowing about, and that was that Joe's mother actually did move out here too. And on the same day that I moved out, we didn't know that was going to happen, but that's how it happened.
Wow.
Surprise. But, and she ended up being, as we found out, there was things that happened with her too, which I really cannot talk about.
Sure.
But yeah, so there was 2 new people here, plus, and that, I think that really sent the spirits here into either drawing some different ones in, and then also just really adding to what was already going on. And it wasn't until later, until the actual dead files, that I started to ask the people that rented the house before, because Joe had a couple of encounters, but he wasn't really here that long. But I did reach out to the people that had rented the house prior, because I'm like, did you ever notice anything? And that's when they told me the things that they were experiencing, the same things, like the footsteps, the opening of the doors, supposing loud footsteps walking through the house, so much so that the woman was so frightened, and she had a child here. And I'm like, well, why didn't you ever tell Joe? And for some reason, back then, they didn't want to, I guess, even though people just don't want to tell people. And we know about that. People don't want people to know. They think they're crazy or things like that. But so apparently there was a lot of activity that was happening prior to me getting here. And, one of the parts that was extremely hard was, I think I had a pretty good force shield over me, but I wasn't I had not really gone into the world of the dark forces yet. I mean, in my work, I had been dealing with health issues, people that are hurt. And one of my abilities is to be able to see into the body to help people with physical pain, where I can go to that spot. Or then it became like a medical intuitive, where I would get the information of well, what does this person need? And the download would come to me. This person needs this, like herbal medicine, or how to take care of themselves. So specific downloads would come to me for that person. So it really wasn't, I was seeing dolphin spirits. The first one, it was a horse, and I write about this in the book. I talk about this, how I saw these amazing animal spirits, And everybody knows how much I love animals, and I have 501c3 dedicated to help animals now. So this is like a mission in my life. And so I never really saw the other thing going to happen. I didn't see it. But so I just really began to get my boots on the ground when I got here. And I think I was very strong. And that was until they, as the years, went by the time 2019 did get here, I'd had many animals that I know were hurt. And there was, that was it, that really wears on you. And then our relationship was also being really hurt at that time by these forces. Like I don't want to keep going on because I may have passed my what I was supposed to say, but yeah, the years leading up to 2019, 2020, 2021, they were long years, but they were filled with research. They were filled with looking for answers. They were filled with mystery. It was an amazing journey, which I'm so glad I decided to just have my camera on and I would document things. Why I did that, I don't know. I wasn't ever planning to use that footage, but I did share it every so often with people that if something happened, and I had people from all over the place that I was working with from different lands, different tribes, because I worked with different Native American tribes. I worked with different Ho'oponopono people, some monks, Tibetan monks. And so I'd always have this footage so I could share with them what was happening so I could get some input, or if they could come here, or if they could do a healing on the land. So I did document everything.
It was such an incredibly profound journey. And, I gotta say, though, I mean, the whole 360 degrees of being attacked, because it's your relationship, your personal, I think even our personal feelings and self-identity is attacked, and then the things you love, like the animals, it's just so profoundly nefarious. And the fact that you guys stuck it out and then saw it through, even in the light of some people telling you, no, there's nothing you can do, you got to go. I'm just so impressed by that.
Thank you. When I look back now, Brent, and I'm just so happy to be here with Brent. I just adore you, and I just really do. So actually, you were the very first person, I think, other than Dave Baker. Well, you were one of the first people that I actually shared my story with. Mm-hmm. So it really, and you were just always so kind and treated me with such respect, because at that time I did not know how people were going to react to me. Sure. And one of the things that as you talk about emotions, like when the Dead Files came out, which I did not even know it was coming out. I heard 1 week before it was coming out. I thought it was coming out at the end of the year. No, they put it out like it was only like 5-6 months after they left, and it was during the pandemic. So we were all stuck in our house. We don't have a TV. We had to go to my friend's house to watch the show. So yeah, the reaction was great, but then also there were some people that just reacted like, why did she leave? Why did they not leave? They told them to leave. And I'm just like, sure. Oh my God. And I wasn't used to that at all. And I'm like trying to type to people. Right. We could not live, but they didn't want to listen. So I did learn the hard way that sharing that information would come back at me in many ways. But mostly I think what's happened is that it was a good thing, because what people see now is that they see the journey. I think a lot of people that have been on that show, they just disappear. You never see them. I mean, you don't know what happened to them after
True.
But I can't think of anybody else that that has actually done what I've done or what our family has done. But when we were told to leave, I really wanted to leave. I really I was so sick. I knew I was under attack, specifically me.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time, I shared with Dr. Kelly. So she has that new show. She has some new shows out, and I shared a story that I have not shared with anybody of one of the things that happened in the hospital. This was after the dead files, and I had an operation set up on January 30th, and so and then I had to stay for that. I had to do recovery. So, but at that time we were looking for a place. We were trying to sell the house, and had it not been for the pandemic, Joe and I, most likely would have sold this house. But because the pandemic hit and my other family, not just Mark and Tristan, had moved in, which they had moved in right before the Dead Files show before they came out here. And those two people were on that show. And so I had more family move out. So we were literally trapped basically in this property. And then I went from not working anymore full time, at my job, going every day to do that, to just being here. And it definitely was another really hard year going through all that with all the other people living here.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And I think it's really easy for anyone on the sidelines to go, well, you should have done this. I mean, any NFL Sunday game, there's, millions of people going, oh, why do you make that pass? And it's like, well, you're not the one out on the field dodging giant people trying to tackle you and stuff. And you make the best calls you can. But it's also, you can't just pack up a suitcase of your life and leave everything behind. I mean, most of us in America anyway, and I'm sure it's this way around the world, are literally just making things work. Like we're not sitting on a pile of resources. We've got enough to, get the basics done and maybe sometimes a little more, but restarting your life is a huge thing to do. And granted, yeah, I mean, you're in a situation that's, all of these horrible things were going on, but I really think that when you guys saw it through, I mean, I think that there's an old saying, there's no such thing as a problem that doesn't hold a gift,
Right.
And that would have been lost to you and all that you did gain by seeing it through. But I don't envy that. And I don't, I can totally understand people decide, no, I'm just done. I'm not messing with this stuff. And that's understandable. But you guys did see it through. And I think that it kind of tempers you like steel, like, like a blacksmith is forging and he's, pounding away. And then you end up with this beautiful, very durable, strong thing. In these kind of situations, I think it does forge you and it does mold you and shape you into a better person, hopefully at the, in the end result. So, I mean, that's the good part of it. But you're right. Just stopping your life, throwing everything you built away just to, go and flee. It's not easy to do, right?
And in a way, I mean, that is so not me. I love this land. Like I said, when I came here, I thought this, and from the spirits that I had met already or that have been here, I was very much knew that this was something I was supposed to be here to do. And it is just what I knew. I felt like, and I was so close to spirit and God and all. I just really growing. And I never ever in a million years thought that she would say, Amy Allen would say to us that we needed to leave. I never thought I would be one of those people. Like, I've seen that show. I love that show. My face, even though I was crying, my eyelashes coming off, it was horrible. It was the most horrible, like, really, do we have to have that scene in the show? But sure. I mean, it was like so shocking. So I thought for sure, that's why I called them. That's why I asked them to help, because I knew she would fix it. I thought she would just like do something and then it would all be fine. They'd have the police investigation and I'd learn all the stuff. And I never thought that she would say that. I was so shocked at what they found, Brent. I can't even, it's like so shocking when I hate to even watch it, because I'm like it's so sickening when I see what happened on that show and I see what we went through. But so I'm not a quitter. I don't quit. But I felt so ill and I felt so sick and I felt so lost, and I felt like they were really coming after me, and I didn't want anybody else to get hurt. So when the pandemic did happen, like we had children on the property then for the first time, and they were seeing things, and we had family. I mean, our family. I thought we were ripped apart. Joe and I were ripped apart so many times prior, but they went after everybody. We had like, there was times, which I don't really share this, but there were times when Joe and I were in the middle and we had other family on each side of us. We have tiny houses and there was wars going on between, so it was pitting us. It was good against evil, but it was, the conquer. It was like trying to just disrupt everything. And I'm like, we have to see that this is they're playing everybody, right? Because you could see them. I mean, they're in the cabin, they're in the house, they're everywhere. They're calling your names out there. They're throwing rocks at one of the cabins at night. It's literally bombing. There's nobody here. There's nobody on the property other than us, right? So it's kind of like when we talk about the rocks being thrown with the Bigfoots. Sure. Like I get to interview people, and I think we've talked about they'll throw rocks at the houses, and that's what was happening. But there's nobody here, so who's throwing the rocks? And I mean, it was just nonstop, and it was nonstop until before the Dead Files. So before the Dead Files, the pivotal point was literally, I just felt like at one point I was taken over where I couldn't move. And that was like where we had the shaman call out. They called the shaman. And then again, that happened during the pandemic. And as we went into the next year, into November, like I was literally getting like with all the nightmares and things that kind of had it just kept going. And that's when I reached out and had to find, I was trying to find an exorcist here in our community, but literally none of them would come out here. They acted, I didn't know. Now I'm part of the Order of Exorcists with Archbishop Ronald Bell Enright. I'm part of that, thank God, with the Unseen Realm show that I do too. That's all part of the Order of Exorcists. But at that time, I had not heard of Bill Bean. I had not heard of, I'd never thought of preaching to an exorcist, but I knew at that moment, I'm like, everything else was not working. Nothing else worked. All the people that tried to help us, nothing would hold. So it was as if and you know what, part of that, obviously now I understand, because I personally had not really the faith in that this is what it was, that Jesus, people kept telling me, like, Jesus, if you bring in Jesus, he will help you forgive what has happened, help forgive all the pain you've gone through, that forgive the pain that happened in my marriage, forgive the pain that happened in the family, all those things that just build up. And I just didn't understand how that could work. But it really was pivotal moment when I did reach out. And what is that man? But he had a prayer list, and I saw it and I thought, well, you know what? Why not? I'll put my name on the prayer list. And I never knew what would happen. But he reached back out to me and helped me to try to find an exorcist. But it was like in California, and I'm like, Dave Schrader. It was Dave Schrader.
Yeah. Dave's wonderful.
But you know what? Dave was so nice. I don't know if he's ever heard me talk about this, but he really took his time. Like, I'm sure hundreds of people write now. I just wrote in, and he made a point to message me, call me, try to get me an exorcist in California, but it just didn't feel right with that person. And then lo and behold, somebody else messaged me about Reverend Bill Bean. And I had no idea who this person was. I had no idea who Reverend Bill Bean was. And she said, I think you should call him, look him up. And this voice from who I don't even know who she was. And that's what happened. I mean, it was life-changing from that moment as that process played out, because I really wasn't all that trusting about all that. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no real complete faith. I was just desperate for my family, even more so, and for myself. And so that was a pivotal moment, because his assistant also, when she helped me, Melinda, she was so nice. And I didn't feel like I didn't feel like they were condescending or they were pressuring me or not believing me. They were just so kind. And, and she started to help me by sending me prayers. And I thought, well, okay, I'll try that. Oh my God, I just felt like the prayers started to do something on the property. So, I mean, it was a real gradual thing, but I felt really positive. Like, what is happening? Like, it was almost like getting an injection of something, and you just start to feel like maybe there's some light coming. So it really wasn't until the next year, that was around November. And by that time, I'd also heard about Warrior Mode and Dave Baker. So I started to really watch their show. I mean, this is weird. I'm like, I'd never watched podcasts before. So it's weird because of all the podcast stuff I do. But this was my first podcast to watch, was Dave Baker and Warrior Mode first. And I just became hooked on those shows. And they talked about things that were like, I understood. Things like your show. Like, what is really happening in my life? People, they were talking about it. And so it wasn't until a few months later that we actually did decide to have Bill help us. And then that we ended up with a series of 3 different exorcism deliverances. I used to always consider them as exorcisms because I really didn't know exactly what all that meant. But now that I am on the unseen realm and we take questions all the time, and I'm with all these people, and I understand there's such a difference between deliverances and exorcisms of a property and or of a person, you know. And I think, and that's why I enjoy your show too, because you dive into all of those different topics about the unseen realms and the people and what they go through in their houses. So it's very interesting when you look at it from all different perspectives.
Right. And I also think that it was really surprising once you started diving into this land and realizing that there were hundreds of years of pain and anguish. And it was just one of those places where a lot of things went wrong over a long period of time. And so it's no surprise that it became this repository for all of these tormented energies, right?
Right. And it's really neat, because one of the parts that you play, the role of the documentary, which talks about the land, is that you're able to share in what some of the evidence was, and in your narration. And so part of yes. So what the research was is like all the time, we kept trying to find the answers on our own. And, I would ask it wasn't just our house. This was happening throughout our neighborhoods. Like weird stuff was happening. Murders, like a man shooting his wife just right down the road.
Oh my God.
A teenager on his birthday walking home 2 roads over in the country here was run over, killed on his birthday. And no one ever found out who did it.
Oh no.
There have been countless, and I shared as much as I could with the Dead Files, but they didn't want to cover any of that. They didn't want to talk about anything about that stuff. But they found their own, they found the Pony 1-2 mission that had blown up over our house, which I never knew until the Dead Files, because we had all seen, not all of us. I mean, I had seen Army people. Other people had seen Army people. We'd heard boots, like Army boots.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always a mystery, like, what is that? So when we found that out, they found that they literally disintegrated up of our house. Not exactly like they made it sound, because I spent like 2 years after that trying to figure out what really happened. And I did find the people that could share with me exactly the spot. It's not that far from the house, about a mile. So really, when a plane does disintegrate, yes, I could say that some of those particles could have made it over to our house. But yeah, so that just added to the point that was modern death on the property. We had the other people that had the insane killer. They called him the devil murderer.
Oh, geez.
He was, that's the person that I was seeing. I know, but literally, when I would see Joe, he would come walk up to the house angry, and then he would go back down into his shop, down the steps into his shop, and he would be walking in circles. This was back in the 2018, and I'm like, what is going on? What was happening? And so I knew that something was jumping him, because I've admitted we were being jumped by these entities, and it wasn't good. But that was one of the things when they found that out, and she was explaining how she saw this entity, this man that was killed, what he was doing, how he was running around in the shop area. So I'm like, thank you, because that was like a big puzzle piece. Like, they're here on our property. They were here. And they were dead, and they were part of us. And so, all the puzzle pieces, plus the Native Americans. So a big part of what I think I'll wait till the actual documentary comes out before I actually say what happened. But I was able to find a piece of information that no one had been able to confirm. In fact, most people, including the mayor of Arizona and a well-known archaeologist that is here in our area, in our land of this Sonoran Desert, had not found this evidence out. So I found a piece of evidence, I believe it was in 2020, I think it was in 2024, early 2024, that really locks it down what was here. And I had it confirmed by them, and it is confirmed. It's a documented report. Cool. Yeah, and this is one I'm talking about that you talked about in the documentary. So I don't want to share it, because when the documentary does come out in distribution, then it'll come out then. So, but it was important, because this was the message that I have always been told here since I got here, that there is something more here that people are not sharing. They're not getting that there is a voice here of what has happened on this land, and it's not being recognized. Not only were the men that died on the Pony 1-2 mission and the Jolly Green Giant, they are not acknowledged here in our area. There's another, we've had numerous, so it's like the Bermuda Triangle of airplane mysterious crashes. And there's all kinds of them. They do talk about this on the Dead Files, I believe. But there's so many more crashes that have mysteriously happened. And you have to wonder, there are airports all around. But the sad thing about that is that group of people, it was because we're on a border of Tucson and Marana. And I couldn't understand until I talked to the mayor, Ed Honey, and he's passed away last Christmas.
Oh.
And he's so sweet, this man. I loved him. He was so helpful in helping me find out about our area and the history. And he shared that on the documentary. But he told me that it's because it was actually, when it actually crashed, it was on Tucson land. So it's not on Marana land. So therefore, Tucson would have had to acknowledge this crash, which they did the first year, but they didn't do it on the area. They did it in town, and then they did it in Tucson at the Air Force Base. But that was it. And the rest of the time, it was acknowledged, I think, maybe one more time. And then now it's acknowledged in the place where their actual air base was. And I found them. I found them on Facebook. I found the group. I found who acknowledges them. I found the families that suffered and missed those men. But I always thought, how can we not acknowledge it? So Joe and I, at that time, Joe built an amazing sculpture to honor them. And we thought, well, where are we going to put it? We put it on our land. And every year we celebrate. It's out there right now. We put the flags up, and we do a memorial. We'll invite people to come out here. The town of Marana, then at the time, I remember we had a person that really wanted to make this land. She was like, Mercedes, we could make this a tourist spot. The Dead File, she had heard about us, and she's like, we can make this a tourist spot. We can have people come to your house. They could bring flowers. Seriously, Brent. And wow. I'm just like, what? If I had been one of those people that want to, make a profit off this land,
sure.
That's what she was really kind of wanting. She's not part of their group anymore, but I thought to myself, well, no, we're not doing that. So we were just barely making it at that time. But as the year went by, I'm so glad we didn't get talked to, or never would have done such a thing. But we do that monument, which to me is very important. Like, we acknowledge, but that's what I mean. It's like the spirits want to have their stories known.
Right.
If you think about, like, one of the things about is these children. We have children spirits on the property that they talk. I mean, she did acknowledge that in the Dead Files too. Like, we have to keep going back to that, but what is up with that? So it's been my goal to find out what is happening. Again, I did find that there was child sacrifice long time ago, not on the mountain. So we're in a certain area that is very much, it's all lots of history, but one of the things I did find is the folklore, which it seems to be true, that a long, long time ago, there was child sacrifice at the mountaintop on this one area, not too far, located in the Avra Valley, which is where I'm at. So we're very much in a pivotal point where we are we're in the middle of sacred areas. Like, the lady had found us on a geo map. And that is one of the things that I still want to do. We took tours in all of these different areas and I filmed them, but I just haven't put that together yet because I decided to put the documentary together and that's what I focused on. But I have all the footage, and someday I think I will, work that into my because what is that? I mean, it's the history of what happened in each of these places back then, and so I think it's so important for people to understand that the land we live on, all of us, you, Brent, everybody, people have lived here before, and if from what I can see with the remote viewing work that I do, when I go back into somebody asks me to help, and then all of a sudden I'm catapulted into some place in time that has to do with whatever they're going with. So many times I can't even tell you. It has to do with I see dead people that are showing me where they died in their location, whether one place in particular was a home that was a hospital, but it had been renovated into a place that nurses would then live. And then as time went by, then it was renovated into just regular people that live there now. And the hospital section was over here, but back in the old days, it was a hospital and then it was a nursing facility that was where they lived. But the spirits that I'm seeing, they see it just as if it was back when they died. So I'd see somebody walking up like where they're going out a door. Well, that door used to lead to a stairway in the back. So it's like they don't realize that some of them do, but some of them don't realize that they're not still there. Right. And you're in their spot. But so to me, it's like the same thing that's happening here is that we have all of these we have the Hispanic, this was Mexico. This was actual Mexico land. So we've got the Spaniards that really came here and just they think the Spaniards, it's all history. They're the first ones that started with the warring on the Native Americans. And it was brutal. So we've got that. And then we've got, I found that there are so many bodies that they found from the University of Tucson, which University of Arizona, Tucson, they have, if you look, I found where are they? Let me find some evidence. And so they show it's all documented, body found here, and they tell you where, and it's how, these are bodies everywhere.
Well, what I'm curious about though is, did you, as you and Joe have moved forward, as you made that monument for the crash, and as you've done things to heal the land, did you notice incremental improvements as these things were happening with the activity around you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So originally though, when when we would put the crystals, so I was very much in my crystals and things, and we'd drive and we put them we'd heard that you put the crystal in each corner of the property, and then I saw this crystal grid, like an image, remote view crystal grid, and I'm like, okay, so we'll put the crystals in the corners, we'll put one in the middle, and then the crystal grid will enact. So we would, like I said, things would happen where you'd feel like it was working, like it would work, but then it just wouldn't last. And so what we have now though is, and let me say one thing. We had the shaman guy that would come out and help us, one of them. He would go and bless with us those corners, and we would bury a crystal into the corners. And I remember one time distinctly what happened was so every time we have our we did not have a fence prior to the dead files. We ended up putting a fence during the pandemic, which was a big deal because people were coming by to that to find us. So what we would do, though, we would take what was on the outside of the fence. That's when we started doing when we go to one side of our fence to the other side of our fence, we started doing the Lord's Prayer at that time, where we would cleanse ourselves off before coming into our property. And that's how we started our kind of a little force shield, because what I would see was on the opposite side, it was like an invisible line, but there would be some Native American spirits on one side that were not very happy about us being there. Seriously, they were not like happy at that time. And so it was very clear, like there was a wall. There was something about crossing our border. So we realized that if we started to do that, then we would have like some sort of security up with energies. But it would get broken sometime, where you'd feel like something has come in, something has happened, or I would see something come in, like a dark shadow. One time, the neighbor said he was out and he saw the stone and he took it. He didn't know it was like part of our property, or like it was something that we had placed there. And so we're like, no, that's our stone. I mean, that's how crazy it was. Like, so we put the stone back, and he's like, "Oh, sorry." It was
Oh, wow.
So, but it was like it opened some sort of door, and I do think that the abilities that I have, plus the abilities that Joe had and is growing day by day, he really has worked on himself. He used to be kind of like an open door, but now, I mean, he is a prayer warrior. He's always trying to raise his frequency. So he and I really bonded when Bill Bean stepped in and we started. I think that's what really happened was Joe and I prayed and did stuff. We did certain kind of prayers. We did, I don't know, things that really weren't working, but we thought they were. But we bonded, and we were told that we need to kneel and say our prayers together at night. And since that moment, since we were told that by Reverend Bill Bean, we have never failed to do that. So we have our serious prayer time, and we do our serious prayers, which we continue to this day. And one of the other things that we did for the property was, instead of just crystals, Joe made specific crosses and blessed these crosses, and he put them on every corner. And then we put a big one when you first walk in. So we still, now to this day, we have the crosses, and I think that's made a huge difference. So we do the different prayers, but we stop at the gate. We have two gates because we ended up having two sections of property. So we have one gate you go through, then you go through a different gate. And then when you get to the door, to our doors, we stop, and whether it's the back gate to his workshop or the front steps, and we do our prayers. So everybody still, how many years has this been now? Since 2021, we've done that. It's 25. So all of us in the family that are here have to do that. And the families that didn't want to do that, they're not here anymore. Some people don't want to do that. Some people didn't want
well, I mean, you think
follow the
rules.
Thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is of course more power with more prayer. You know, I mean,
exactly.
It is a multiplication factor, definitely. Do you still find that there's plenty of strangeness still happening, albeit it's hopefully a lot more peaceful? But do you still find that there's still a lot of those energies present?
Yeah. One other thing that we also continued was a group called the Tucson Ghost Society with Becky McKitty-Guidison as the lead investigator. She had come out just prior to Bill helping us. So we had different evidence documented throughout the time of what was here before the deliverance exorcisms and what was here after. So it was really amazing when you see the different variations of evidence. So I absolutely loved her and her kindness and her integrity to all of us. So I let her continue on investigating. And the weird thing is at the time with the dead files, Amy Allen told me as before she left that you need to leave. They're after you, but don't sell your property unless try to keep your property and keep it and make it a paranormal hub. Make it a place where investigators can come out. She told me that. And I'm like, still like shocked about all of this stuff. And I was like, what are you? I mean, Joe and I were like, no.
Yeah.
So, but we didn't know what was going to end up happening. So it's very weird though, because she said there's so much activity that like she couldn't even stop, but she said to do that. And so I think it's very bizarre what happened actually was that this group that the only ones I let out here, they would bring all their stuff. And that's what, it's in the documentary too. But she asked me, can we make this our training ground? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess. Because every time she comes out here, they never fail to find evidence. And she's got a ghost tour in Tucson. She's got a tour at Tombstone. But something about our property has more activity and they gather more evidence than any place that she's been. And so that went on up until last year, about, I think, February, March, something last year, because I decided to stop it because one of the family members here was diagnosed with autism spectrum. And I did not want to take the chance to see what was happening, what was going to happen with that. And so thank God that's like getting so much better now. And I think that was the right choice. But what we continued to find, Brent, was still the children would knocking, the toys would be left. You still hear you hear the people talking. They know exactly who we are. There are people that are there. She calls them something. They know we're here, and they know who our dogs are. They know Eli, my dog. They even said his name on one of the recordings, Eli.
Oh, nice.
And so they're very present here. I have not had any type of yucky energies since.
Good.
I think that if we would not keep up our protocol, they'd be back in a second. But if and when anything does weird ever happen, we gather together and we do super prayers. But I made it very clear, like, I don't believe that they cannot, that the other spirits I think they're just here.
Sure.
I saw so many that were just crossing in, like walking in lines. And I share that in my book. I share what has happened, what the black entities that we saw. I drew them all. So what I see now is more still the animal spirits.
Okay.
The other day, it would just felt like you could just feel like this being was here, but it just felt like not the trickery kind. Because now I've learned how to ask those questions to know, use discernment. Is it? Because I've got to where I can, like, if it's something bad, I get notified. So I know that sounds crazy, but that's how I've learned since the Dead Files. When I did not realize that wispy thing that I thought was like a wispy kind of an energy, I thought it was a good spirit. Well, no, that was the thing that was tricking me. That thing was morphing into good things, pretending to be good. And that's why I call it like a fairy tale mentality. We think that these things are good, but they are waiting there to trick us. And we have to be so careful. I think you had something the other day, you were talking about Ouija boards or things like that. Like, you got to be so careful if we just open these doors up and we think it is our grandmother, we think it is our mother. And I see these spirits too, so I have to be super careful. But I believe that we can get visited by our parents and our mothers, and our children, and all these things. But I also believe that they can. There are some really bad ones out there that will portray themselves as that to open that door.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no question. I just find your story continuing to be incredible, and again, your tenacity, your dedication to each other and to your home has been really inspiring, because it takes a lot to face all of this and still maintain. And I think in many ways it has tempered you and honed you and strengthened you through a manner of trials. And I'm so glad that it's become a place where you can be happy to be home, you know.
Yeah.
But it didn't come without its price, of course. But, you know, you and Joe have... Go ahead.
One of the things is like a miracle. I think, like, we couldn't grow a garden. We could not grow... The birds weren't here. I mean, like, wildlife wasn't here. And like, once the things started happening, it's almost like the land just, like, lit up. Like, it was happy land, and we were happy, and we are happy. Like, so many amazing things have happened since these blessings have on the property and on our home and our relationship. So I really say to people, if they can, like, you know, do what you have to do to get the right people to help you. Right. I am thankful for the dead. I'm so thankful for them. I'm so thankful for them for helping us. But I do believe that we can overcome the bad. We can. It's good versus evil right now. Mm-hmm. And I believe that God won on this property. God won. Yeah. We won. It's a good feeling, you know, to know that. But what's very interesting is just to see how many different people tried to help, and what happened from all those, and what was it that really made the difference. And I was just as surprised as everybody else. You know, I was really surprised at how my life has changed. Sure. But because of what I went through, I'm very adamant about talking about how it did change my life, because it literally, my life has been saved, I believe, and my marriage has been saved by doing a few different things and opening that option up, that possibly God is really real, and God was trying to help us, and these amazing spirits were trying to share that we just had to keep going, that there was a reason that to not leave. Right. And that's, you know, there's a song I made, which is in the Shadows of the Desert documentary. And I named it Shadows of the Desert, but it's a really great song, because it was like, I felt like it channeled through it's like looking at the spirits, channeling through the song, talking about the spirits of this land. And that's what that song's about. And I tried to create it the best I could to mimic what I was seeing here through their eyes in many ways. And so that's, if you ever want to listen to that, all my music right now is on, you know, all the music channels, Amazon, and Spotify. I don't have it on, there's the one channel that you have that your music, I don't have it on that one, but I have it on like all the Apple, so you can find the songs on there that are really kind of about the spirits. And the Ghosts in the Dark, that the new documentary is the reason I called it that is because that was a song I wrote during the pandemic. When I was here, I wrote it on my piano, and I did not record it till after I think it was last year we finally produced it, and we produced it here. So during the pandemic, all my music, I stopped going outsources and all my stuff. So we were here. So I just kind of created the podcast. I created the everything all brand new, a whole media life, that I had not really had in a long time. So those songs, that song Ghosts in the Dark, literally I did not use the exact footage from the investigation, but the investigations that Becky had done out here, all those voices, I used those voices, but we recreated them.
Okay.
Because I asked Spirit, and I thought, can I use these spirit voices on here? It just felt wrong to use what they recorded. Plus, I didn't want to they recorded it. I didn't want to use things like that. So I thought that I should just redo it. So it was very easy because they were very clear voices. So, but those voices were added. What they were saying was actually in that song, which is talking about the spirits of the land. So it's pretty amazing, all the weird things that have happened, like songs and who does that? I don't know. I'm a songwriter. I've always been a songwriter.
Sure.
That was my life as a songwriter. I performed. I had my bands. So it's almost like it's just natural for me to write what comes up in my life. I've always done that. So it's all part of what's happening.
Amen.
The music is big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you take just a little bit of time here? Tell everybody about the documentaries, where to find them. Tell them about your books, where to find them. And tell them about your shows and where to find those.
There's so many things.
I know. You're so busy.
I'm busy. Such a blessing. So the documentary Shadows of the Desert, as soon as I, finished it, I didn't know. I was so lucky because I found somebody that would distribute it. And I had to pass the tests to do that, of course, and they did pass the test. So it's been like 8 months, but I believe that it will be out in distribution soon. And then that's on worldwide multimedia, and that will go out on all of the the places that you find documentaries. It's a specific documentary. So that one, we still are waiting for it to come out. But you'll be the first to know because you're part of it. So the second one I'm working on now, that's in production. The music we just talked about, where you can find my music, is one thing. So then we've got the books that I was told to write. I felt like Spirit was telling me, you got to start writing these books. So I wrote a book called, like you mentioned, Through the Veil, A Journey of Remote Viewing, Spirit Communication and Healing. That you can find on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And I believe one of them has, that one is also where you can, it's on, what do you call it, online, and they can read it online. What's that called?
The Audible?
Where it's online reading. You don't have, it's not a paper book.
Right. Oh, it's an ebook or whatever. Yeah.
Ebook. Yeah, I get ebook.
Yep.
So that one's on an ebook. And then I've got A Better You Through Prayer and Fasting. And there's more of the titles called Unlocking God's Healing Code for the Body, the Soul, and the Nation. And that is also on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Okay. I also did a coloring book called The Desert Garden Friends coloring book, which is inspired by my husband Joe's work as a artist with our 501c3 Beautiful Spirit Productions. If you want more information on that, you can go to the website, my website, or its website is Beautiful Spirit, My Beautiful Spirit Productions, 501c3. And that is something, what a miracle. Like, what a miracle this is happening. It expresses the wildlife, saving the Sonoran Desert wildlife. Joe is making these interactive sculptures like the giant butterfly. I'm doing all the video production for this. I've created a coloring book out of the blue for this, and that's being sold online and also at the Tucson Botanical Gardens. And our next big thing, everyone is so amazing, is the Desert Museum, which, Brent, that's like a huge tourist. Both of these are huge tourist places. So we are putting a tour together, everyone. So look this up. You can look up on my website, which is mercedesluckebenedict.com, and there's all the information there. Plus, I'm always on Facebook, and you can find me and friend me on there. I would appreciate it. And please go to my YouTube channel. I was telling Brent, like, I really try to be the, what do you call it, the social media person thing, but there's so many things out there. So I would love for people to, like, go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, and go to the other YouTube channel and subscribe, My Beautiful Spirit Productions, because we could really use subscribers and people sharing what we're doing. And all of my stuff is on my YouTube channel. So, and those channels and my Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. So the other thing was the shows I do. So I just started a brand new one to help people with what I believe helps us so much, is prayer and fasting. But what I decided to do was combine both the books, because they're both combined, of how to help people. So the new name is called A Better You Through the Veil. And this will be the third week I've done that. That's on a Monday, and that'll be on my Facebook and YouTube at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this week we'll be having Dr. Adrian Finkelstein, who is a renowned, he's on the unseen realm, but he's a renowned spiritual psychiatrist, and he helps people with past life regression. He's been on, like, in television, all those big channels. He's amazing. He'll be my guest. You would love him, Brent. He'll be my guest on Monday. Tomorrow's on Tuesday. So the other show I have is it's called Explaining the Unexplainable, with exorcist of the Order of Exorcists, Bishop Joshua Sparks, and he and I have that combined show together, where that's on 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the WEBB Radio Network, and that streams out on Facebook and YouTube, and it's an amazing show. We have incredible people. We get to talk about all paranormal stuff. We get to talk about, we just had a great guy the other day talking about cryptids and Sasquatch and all this stuff. I just love all that stuff. Brent's been on there. So the third one is one of my favorites is The Unseen Realm with Archbishop Ronald Bell Enright, and he asked me to produce that starting about 2 years ago, and so I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So I had Desiree Valdez come in as a co-producer. So she and I co-produced that show, and that one is amazing because then I became an official member of the Order of Exorcists, Sacred Saint Michael and the Sacred Order of Exorcists. And I can share with you today, Brent, because now it's out in public, there is a television pilot being made for the Order of Exorcists right now.
Wow.
It's on with the New Jersey Shores Entertainment, their website. And this week we'll be putting it's actually out on the website, so I don't have to keep it secret anymore. It says right there, Order of Exorcists is one of their things slotted to have a pilot television show, which will feature the podcast as well in parts of it. But the main focus is on all of Order of Exorcists and Archbishop Ronald Bell Enright, which, I mean, this man has put a worldwide organization together for like 60 years, 50 years. And he started it's the first time that's ever happened, a whole organization worldwide. We have people that are out there trying to help people. And it's really made me understand the good people out there trying to help them. We've got one man on the show, Dr. Reverend Glenn, that has been out there in Africa. So he's 96 years old, Brent. So
Wow.
wisdom on the show, and he's like, you would never. He talks about what he had to deal with in Africa. Wow. And all these places as he went into these tribes and all across the world. And then we've got Reverend Bishop Joshua. He talks about all of his things. And then we've got, so all of these people are the other one, the psychiatrist, Dr. Adrian. This group of people is incredible.
Sure.
And so I invite people to be on, and we want you to come and bring a question to the chat. You can write your questions in and we answer those questions. But the wisdom of these men is incredible. So you can't really find that anywhere else. So I'm so honored to be a part of all that. Who would have thought? I would have never known all this was going to happen. But here I am.
But you are the culmination of your journey, right? Again, you've crawled through the fires of all of the perdition and such, and you made it out, and now this is your triumphant, chrysalis moment where you've emerged into all this amazing projects and pursuits. So I'm really glad that you came back. Thank you so much for coming back on the show and for sharing even more insights into this incredible story and also your successes. I think that's the best part for me. It is interesting to talk about the struggles and what you saw, but I'm just so happy that there is a happy ending, that you found your way through it, and you and Joe are doing amazing things. So thank you so much, Mercedes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brent. And thank you to all your wonderful people on the Paranormal Portal.
It's my pleasure, and we'll have to get you back again sometime in the future.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. So hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you again so much for all your love and support. And remember, if you want to follow the Paranormal Portal, probably the easiest way is to head over to paranormalportal.net. And that's the homepage for the Paranormal Portal. And you'll find links to all of our different social media and sites and information about the shows, including our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/paranormalportal. Or just look for Paranormal Portal on Google or whatever search engine, and you'll find links to our social media such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So we're kind of all over the place, and we're spreading as well as we can. But anyway, thank you so much for the love and support. Y'all take care, and remember, we love y'all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Until next time.